A larger bench of the Karnataka High Court will now decide whether the hijab is an essential practice of Islam. What should have been a right to education debate has become a right to hijab debate. I'm Barkha Dutt, you're with the Mojo story. Is the right to wear a hijab part of the fundamental right to propagate and practice one's religion? That will now be a question before our judiciary. As the court hears this case, which has seen Muslim girls who want to wear the hijab to the classroom locked out of their educational institutions, the larger debate has now entered the annals of case law. Is this part of the fundamental right to practice and propagate religion? And is this taking away attention from what really matters, which is to bring back girls into the classroom? For now, the court has said that till the matter is settled, there can be no visible religious symbol, whether saffron shawls or the hijab, worn to the classroom. Will this de-escalate the crisis and at least enable the reopening of schools and colleges with everyone in the classroom, or will the standoff continue? Putting a legal lens on this very, very volatile issue, let's introduce our panel of experts today. We're joined by our lawyer, Anas Tanwir. He's an advocate with the Supreme Court. Welcome to the program, Anas. We're also joined by Anubha. Anubha Shrivastava is also a lawyer and advocate. Welcome to the program, Anubha. We're joined by Dr. Ranjana Kumari. Ranjana ji is one of the foremost feminist voices in this country. For feminists, this has been a tricky and a minefield of a response. Is the hijab about choice, or is the hijab about patriarchy, or are there no simple answers? Those are some of the questions we'll put to her. As the Prime Minister speaks about the rights of Muslim women, we're joined by Zakia Soman. Zakia Soman is an activist who was at the forefront of the fight by Muslim women against triple talaq, which was eventually read down by the Supreme Court. How does she view this entire issue? And also joining us today, and as you can see, she is today wearing her hijab, but she has previously served as a short service commissioned officer in the military. She's been a major. She's an army veteran. And of course, there would have been no space for her hijab in the military. So how does she handle these contradictions? Is Major Firasat. Welcome to the program. All right, let me start with you, Zakia Soman. As somebody who was at the forefront of the fight against triple talaq, how do you see this battle? A number of young Muslim women I've been interviewing say that this has become about the right to identity for them. But the fact is that they are being locked out of their classroom. Now the court says, come back to the classroom, but without your hijab. How do you see this, ma'am?
At the start, Barkha, it was a matter of some discipline in an educational institution. But very soon it blew over into some kind of a full-fledged war between and conflict between Hindu and Muslim, and with all kinds of political vested groups, religious groups jumping in. And I feel that these girls in hijab have been singled out. It is a clear-cut case of discrimination, especially since we have so much religion all around in our country. Why are these girls being singled out? Having said that, I also am quite certain on this point that hijab or burqa or veil is not essential part of Islam. There is ample evidence now. It's now common knowledge that it is not essential practice, and it is a patriarchal imposition. And so that makes this situation even more complex, because we are for gender justice, but we are equally for right to religious freedom, and we are equally for upholding our democratic freedoms, which we enjoy as citizens of India. At the same time, the kind of politics of religious divide and hatred which is going on, all kinds of opinions are coming forward that this may not be the right time to talk about reform in Islam. But I feel that the right time will never come. And the questions that Indian Muslims are faced with, they predate 2014. And even now also, if we don't come to terms with it, even as we resist the Hindutva politics, the divisive politics with our full might, even as we sort of try very hard to make those in the government accountable, we cannot now anymore put this issue of reform within the Muslim community and the question of gender justice for Muslim women as granted by Allah, We cannot put it anymore under the
So can I paraphrase you as saying you're not someone who supports the hijab, but you believe that these girls wearing the hijab have yet been treated badly? Am I summarizing you correctly?
Yes, perfectly correctly, yes.
Why do you think the girls have been singled out? Let's also remind our audience that we have seen saffron shawls, students, young men wearing saffron shawls colliding with these girls wearing the hijab. You say hijab is not an essential practice. Now, the court in its interim order wants none of this visible religiosity as the matter is being settled. Zakia, why do you believe these young girls have been treated unfairly? Many of them have been jeered at. They have, and they're young. Let's not forget that they're extremely young.
Yeah. So yeah, we are all aware that, it's a hugely polarized India. And in some ways, certain instances when they happen, our India has not remained, recognizable in a way. So this is only the latest flashpoint in the political. It has now become a systematic pattern that we divide humanity, we polarize the community, and we ask for votes. And spreading hate about minorities, and particularly about Muslims, is fair game now. So I think that, on the one hand, we have all this whole rhetoric of Beti Padhao, but now the most vulnerable section in the community, that is the girls, and the girls' right to education. Now that last kind of a vestige is also being brought into this very, I would say, this very dirty political play of divide and rule. So it's shocking, no doubt, but it is not really surprising. And particularly in that region of Karnataka, the way the developments have been taking place, the kind of polarization on the ground, we have seen how the Christmas celebrations were interrupted in so many places. Maximum number of places were in that belt in Karnataka. So it's not really surprising. And also there is some kind of on the side of the some Muslim organizations also, there is some kind of activity, political activity, where they enroll students, which should be all fine in normal times. But unfortunately, these are not normal times. These are times of extreme religious polarization, and also these are times of Islamophobia and religious hatred.
So it is complicated. It is complicated. It is a simmering cauldron that threatens to boil over. I do want to play out what the Prime Minister has said on the issue of the rights of Muslim women. But Ranjana, Kumari, if you want to come in, Zakia Soman is not an advocate for the hijab. She is not even making it about choice. She's saying she sees the hijab as a symbol of patriarchy. A number of other women say it's about choice. Choice is a very loaded word in gender. We're all products of patriarchy to varying degrees. How do you see this fault line, Ranjana? What should happen next?
Well, what happened in Karnataka, Barkha, is unacceptable. Also, the way the boys have bullied the girls, because they're boys, they can bully, and I don't know where they all got the similar scarf just within few hours. I think there is a kind of political whole thing has been mobilized by political intent, and this is part of the larger design at the moment, as Zakia said, and I totally agree. But let's not make the larger debate drown into this whole thing, because right to education is a constitutional right, and nobody can deny that to any student, any young person who wants to enter the school or college, whether somebody is wearing turban or somebody is wearing hijab or whatever. So for me, this has been politically motivated effort. But let's not forget about the larger debate. This is a patriarchal control over women's sexuality and body, that women are being made to wear ghungat, forget about just hijab, or 5.5 meters of sari you'll wrap around with at the time of wedding, and for years and months she cannot really open her ghungat to see anything outside what the world is like. Similarly hijab, similarly burqa, similarly nuns wear those long dresses. I think these are all who made these rules and how they have come. Basically these things have come to curb the male sexual desire, or to protect the women and not feel too conscious of their own bodies, or maybe just to hide them from the male glare. And I think I read a few of these things, because a lot of my friends are protesting against hijab in other countries of the world, and I know that they are all fighting back and saying that this imposition, look at Iran, what they do. They catch you, they put you behind the bar if you're not covering every part of your body. They just bully you into it and similar. So this is not really actually a choice. I don't believe it a choice because this is mandatory. This is mandatory. A lot of families in India, Muslim families are not really where the choice is. They're not wearing it. They don't care. They're not just going for any kind of. And similarly for other community. I mean, let me talk about Hindu because they were all wearing that saffron, claiming themselves to be whatever. And it's the same is Karnataka, same Bangalore where they pulled the women out of bar by their hair. Same kind of group people are there, these and who are really encouraging these boys. So patriarchal control on women's sexuality is behind all kinds of covering of a woman. And that is my stand on this issue. It is
I think your stand and Zakia's stand is quite similar in that you are not comfortable with this idea of this enforced modesty by religious faiths, but you do not agree with keeping girls out of classrooms basis that.
But now, you cannot. It is constitutional right.
Now let's
right to education.
Now, I want to ask the lawyers, which constitutional right are we actually focusing on? Is it the right to education? Is it the right to propagate or practice religion? And the court will have to decide whether the hijab is an essential practice or not, just as it had to decide with the Sabrimala case, where the court gave one order and then ended up reviewing its own order. So coming to Anas and Anubha in just a moment, those are images I think we're seeing from on the Sabrimala case, where women led the protest against that order and said, it's okay, we don't want to enter Sabrimala. Menstruating women, as you know, are barred. The Supreme Court tried to change that. There was such an outcry that there was a review that it had to do of its own case. Now let's, before we come to Anas and Anubha, hear what the Prime Minister had to say. He's not specifically addressed the issue of the hijab, but he's located his comments within the larger framework of the rights of Muslim women.
भाजपा के लिए विकास में बेटियों की सहभागिता सबसे बड़ी प्राथमिकता है। इसलिए आज हर सेक्टर को बेटियों के लिए खोला जा रहा है। मुस्लिम बहन बेटियां हमारी इस साफ नियत को भली भांति समझती है। हमने मुस्लिम बहनों को 3 तलाक के जुल्म से मुक्ति दिलाई है और हमने जो 3 तलाक के खिलाफ कानून बनाया है, उसने मुस्लिम बहनों को सुरक्षा का विश्वास दिया है। लेकिन साथियों, जब मुस्लिम बहन बेटियों का समर्थन खुलेआम भाजपा को मिलने लगा, जब मुस्लिम बेटियां 1-1, 2 मिनट के अपने वीडियो डालने लगी, भाजपा की सरकार की तारीफ करने लगी, सदियों के बाद इतना बड़ा सम्मान मिला, इसके लिए गौरव गान करने लगी, तो जो कुछ वोटों के ठेकेदार होते हैं, उनकी नींद हराम हो गई, वो बेचैन हो गए। अरे हमारी ही बेटी मोदी मोदी करने लग गई। उनके पेट में दर्द होने लगा। मोदी की तारीफ में मुस्लिम बहनों के बयान, उनके वीडियो देखकर इन ठेकेदारों को लगा कि इन बेटियों को रोकना होगा, ये इतनी बड़ी मोदी के तरफ में चली जाएगी तो घर में ही उनका राज आ जाएगा। और इसलिए मुस्लिम बहन बेटियों का उनको हक रोकने के लिए, उनके विकास के आकांक्षाओं को रोकने के लिए नए नए तरीके खोजे जा रहे हैं। वो लोग मुस्लिम बहनों को बरगला रहे हैं ताकि मुस्लिम बेटियों का जीवन हमेशा पीछे ही रहे।
Now, when we talk about the backwardness for Muslim women, it's important to remember that female enrollment in the Muslim community has gone up by 37% in the last few years. And do we want to reverse these gains by focusing so much on the hijab instead of getting more and more Muslim women to actually remain in school and not drop out? Anas, when we frame this in legal terms, what is the principle of law that will come before the court? The practice and propagation of religion or the right to education?
First of all, this debate is wrongly framed. The question should be, the debate should be around the failure of law and order by the state and state exercising those powers that it does not have. Under the law, under the Karnataka State Act, the state does not have, or the institution does not have power to regulate uniform. Matter of fact, no uniform has been prescribed. And to stop Muslim women from entering college by exercising the powers that they don't have, it is unfortunate. And the whole direction of the debate is wrong. Now that the matter has been referred to the larger bench, the larger bench is definitely looking into the question of whether hijab is an essential religious practice or not. And Zakia mentioned that it is not an essential part of Islam, but that is wrong. That is wrong on the touchstone of the Saira Bano, the triple talaq judgment itself. Because Quran here, clearly, like in triple talaq, there was nothing in Quran that indicated that triple talaq was valid. But here the Quran mentions itself that you have to cover up yourself, you have to dress modestly, you have to wear jilbab. And this is, and whatever is in Quranic, is given in Quran, it is a mandatory law. It is a law that has to be followed by Muslims. And to follow that right, follow that law, is the power that we get from the Constitution itself. So even if the court goes into the point of essential religious practice, the matter, it is a fact that hijab is essential part of religion.
Can I ask you, just from the point of view of law, one, you're arguing, Anas, that the state government exceeded its brief, its legal mandate, as it were. Two, you're arguing that the court will determine whether the hijab is an essential practice. But, we have this Sabrimala precedent where the court argued that there was no essential practice. And then there was such a backlash from the people that the court was forced to review its own order. The reason I'm bringing this up is, can courts really settle matters of faith? Was this not best sorted between individual educational institutions and the girls and the parents and the teachers? That is how I think it should have been settled.
See, it should not have been, in like speaking about Sabrimala, even the issue of essential religious practice has been referred to larger bench in review. It remains pending. It has not been heard. I'm not sure if the Bangalore High Court should go into that, because the matter remains pending. The question remains pending before the Supreme Court. Yeah. Secondly, where did the issue start? How did the issue start? These women have been observing hijab since a long time. They have been coming to college. They were bullied into not entering college by group of outsiders, mostly outsiders wearing saffron shawls, wearing color coordinated pagadi. The similar pagadi that was seen in the visual recently when you played the Modi visual here. They were wearing those pagadis. They were wearing color coordinated uniform. These are mostly were outsiders, were goons who heckled these women. Why were they not arrested? Why did the state not protect these women? The question is not about whether they have a right to wear this or not. The question is, why did the state fail?
Okay. And you believe that is something that the court will have to take cognizance of. Anubha, I know you have quite a different perspective. Yes. Anubha, let's bring you in and then we'll come to Major Firasat. Go ahead, Anubha.
Yeah, thank you for having me here, Barkha ji. See, let me tell you first of all about Right to Education Act. Right to Education Act puts an obligation not only on state government or the education department to bring all the children back to school and provide them better education to each and every children in our country, to each and every child, right to free and compulsory education. This not only puts an obligation on government and the other department, but it puts obligation on parents as well. There's a provision in Right to Education Act that there is an obligation on parents. They have to provide education to their child. So if a school is following a dress code, and if you are not sending your child to school, then you are hindering then you are not allowing your child to progress. That is what I would say, and even right to education is what talks about.
What about
the hijab,
what about the right to practice religion, which is what Anas just argued, that it is an essential tenet of faith.
Right to
propagate religion, practice and propagate religion.
I'm not. See, as far as religion is concerned, in schools there is a dress code. If any school allows you to wear a turban, like I have studied in KV, and in my class there was a Muslim girl also who used to come. She used to wear skirt till 10th standard, and in 11th and 12th we used to wear salwar kurta. So there was a dress code, and she was a Muslim. And those who were sardar, they used to wear turban, blue color turban. I still remember. It was long, 20 years back I'm talking about. So the same rule is applicable even now. All the dress code, be it any institution, private or aided or unaided, or any company or corporate or any other sector, if there is a dress code or hotel or anywhere, if there is
you're talking about,
there is a dress code you have to follow, and even Honorable Supreme Court cannot intervene.
Okay, Anubha,
even Supreme Court cannot intervene in was private, even minority.
I've got your point. You're focusing on the idea of the uniform, and I think no one would know the uniform better than someone who's been a soldier. So before I come to Dr. Ranjana, Kumari, and Anas, who are both have their hands raised, I actually want to go across to Major Firasat now. Major Firasat, as we said, was a short service commissioned officer in the army with the rank of a major, and she knows everything there is to know about a uniform. Today she's here wearing a hijab. Can I first ask you, you were in the Signal Corps, ma'am, is that correct?
Good evening, ma'am. Yes, I was in the Corps of Signals.
Okay. Now, when you were in the military, obviously there was no hijab.
There was a headgear, and that brought me to a habit of covering the head. My mother is a head of department of botany. She doesn't wear hijab. Very few people of my family wear it. But when you are in your profession, focus on your work. That habit has brought me into this.
What age were you when you started wearing a hijab?
I would say the moment I left army.
Yeah. So what made you do it? I mean, you more than anybody on this panel knows what a uniform is, right? You are a creature, a product of the military uniform of our nation. And you would never have, I'm guessing, said to your superiors, let me wear a hijab with my military uniform, right? You would never have said that.
Yes.
So why now? What made you do it?
To be very honest, ma'am, when we are in the uniform, we generally wear a bun behind, which I'm still wearing. And then we generally so you will find most of the army officers much more focused towards their towards their uniform, looking after the smartness of their beret. But as ladies, we are least concerned about the bun. So when I came on the civil street, I understood I cannot make a good hairstyle when compared to other ladies, but I can surely manage my dress with my scarf. So this is the thing.
So is it a fashion statement? Is your hijab a fashion statement?
No, you can look at Captain Amrinder Singh. He was in the uniform. Yes, he is CM of Punjab. He was erstwhile CM of Punjab. And when you stand for people, when you work on the ground, your focus should be the ground, not what you wear.
So how do you see this whole controversy?
Yes, I see this as a mismanagement because the children who are there, they're in their pliant age. All of them are around 20s, less than 20s, and they are a generation who are mobile savvy. These children do not understand what things are. They just go by the influence of how many mobile hits are there, how many likes are there. If any of us debating here would get an opportunity to hold any of the boys or the girls out there and ask them the respective verses of their faith, they will not be knowing it. I think it is a way where we are not teaching moral values. We are just showing them the colors of religion. And colors and dress do not define religion, humanity. It is the deeds, the responsibilities that define.
Well said. But, I just want you to, Firasat, if I may, Major Firasat, no stereotype actually fits the women of our country. So when we think of a woman wearing a hijab, we tend to think of her as a victim. And you heard Ranjana and Zakia saying that they see the hijab as symbols of patriarchy as well as the ghungat. And I personally think that whether it is covering women or uncovering them, whether it's the bikini or the ghungat and hijab, both are products of patriarchy. We're all products of patriarchy. But you broke so many barriers by joining the military as a Muslim woman. Today, when you wear the hijab, what does that hijab symbolize for you? Having been a soldier.
I am on the governing councils for few things. At Government Engineering College, I am the alumni representative for industry engagement. The chairman of the governing council, Mr. Vivek, clearly tells me, Firasat, when I see you wearing a hijab and holding a pen and getting into the industrial area, I feel the culture, the education, and the women gender is safe. He precisely brings out, Firasat, when I see you, you make the old people. See, ma'am, when I came to armed forces or when I broke many barriers in my life, when people used to tell me, complain me, I take it as a complaint. I just filter it out, keep it to the side, and I think
what would you say to these girls? What would you say to these girls or to the school authorities?
Say, with these girls, I would say focus on your education. Focus, both for the boys and the girls, I will say focus on your education. If we see these clips, there are people in between, the teacher, the human chain guys who are taking the social responsibility of keeping peace. They are not understanding by like a state like Karnataka who is into a IT hub, and issues like hijab, Islamophobia will actually, we are wasting the money of the taxpayers.
Very interesting, and you're saying that as a woman wearing a hijab. So it's actually fascinating.
It's the IT industry that gives identity to Bangalore. It's the IT industry that gives Bangalore its identity. It is foreign investments that has brought the state up. And it is one of the most developed states. Issues like this are actually diversion from some other spectrum of some other activities in some other state.
Well, I have to say that, this is why I love this country, because nobody actually fits what you're going to think they're going to say. So we have Major Firasat in her hijab, urging young girls focus on education. She served as a soldier in the military, and only started wearing a hijab after she left the military. Ranjana, you were wanting to come in. The fascinating story.
Yes. I think why I say it's a patriarchal control and symbol of subjugation. Because when you look at the Quran, and I think I'm not an expert at all and I don't claim anything, but whatever I have written about female bodily functions and sexuality in religious traditions, I think it's important to understand that it was prescribed to dress modestly for both men and women. And look at the way, men have conveniently switched to whatever they want to wear, wherever they want to wear, what they want to wear. And look at the way they still keep saying and quoting all kinds of religious scriptures for putting women behind the veil, behind the ghungat, behind the hijab or burqa. So I think why? I mean, because, whose eyes are women supposed to protect themselves from? It is male gaze. Who's responsible for putting women behind? And who made these laws? Who made these laws to tell women that, don't show your
But now what should we do? Ranjana, now what should we do? We can all keep writing and arguing about hijab, ghungat, whether hypersexualization and the hijab are the only two extremes available. Let me tell you, most women reside in the area between these two extremes imposed on us by culture. I just want to get Anas in. Anas, you heard what Anubha said, that it's about a uniform. What happens to the idea of a uniform? Does it take second place to the right to practice and propagate religion, or could we take a view that in schools there is no space for any visible religion?
Barkha, the premise is wrong. We are not talking about school. We are talking about college. Which college had uniform? I went to a national university. There was no uniform. There was this uniform prescribed only for Monday, which we barely wore ever. We are talking about college. We are not talking about school. This is also junior college where there is a uniform. There are institutions which do have a uniform involved in this case. No. We are
class 11. No, class 11 and class 12, I call it school. There are many places where, these classes
I'll
are
come
taught
to
in
that.
junior college. Yeah.
I'll come to that. The
Yeah.
school uniform prescribes that you can take dupatta of the similar, actually allows, that uniform allows hijab. If I'm wearing a dupatta, if I take it like this or I take it over my head, will the state tell me or will these goons tell me how I should wear that dupatta? And when you say that, Anubha said that parents should not do this, not even a single parent has said that I will not send my kid to college if she's not wearing hijab. This is a wrong presumption here. The other wrong presumption is to believe that these girls are not doing it out of their choice, is infantilizing them. When you say that it is a oppression and everything, I know the question will come on conditioning. You will say,
Of course.
But what is also conditioning?
Anas, I am 50 years old and I'm still a product of conditioning.
Right.
मैं 50 साल की हो गई हूँ, conditioning नहीं गई.
So conditioning is wrong. My parents sent me to an English medium school. That was not my choice. Right?
Okay.
That was not my choice.
Let me
conditioning into who I am. Is it bad?
Let me bring in Zakia. Zakia, fascinating account from Major Firasat. I know you heard a part of it, and I want you to come in on this. The different stages also. She served in the military, no question of hijab. She said she was just used to headgear, so she kind of continued that in another form. And she believes the focus of these girls must be on education. But the point is, if we are going to deny girls, even if we say these girls are indoctrinated, let's say for a moment, इनका choice नहीं है, ये indoctrinated है. All the more you want them in the classroom. All the more you want them in the classroom.
Yes.
So that later they are economically self-reliant, they have professional careers, and then they can choose, like Major Firasat, what they want to do.
Yes. You're very right. You're very right. And one is that that's why I'm saying that this is a politically motivated kind of a plan. That is quite evident. We know that. But the choice argument is very, very slippery because I wouldn't even use the word indoctrination, because so we have to also keep in mind that large sections of Muslim community are poor and are also backward educationally, socially, economically. And it's not as though there is a lot of access to state amenities, the civil amenities.
Yeah.
At best, they are very, very poor. So, and in such a background, the only agency which is there continuously is the conservative forces, and this is the understanding of the conservative forces which is being served to the community, and in good faith, large part of the community just receives it and accepts it and implements it. So the kind of pressures that directly, indirectly, subtly, subconsciously, consciously, the kind of pressures with the families, with the parents, with the girls live in. One only has to be part of that to be able to understand what kind of a pressure that is. Because when the whole mohalla, girls in the whole mohalla go to college or school only in hijab, then there cannot be 2, 3, 4 girls who cannot not go in an hijab. So there are so many forces here.
Choice is a very slippery slope. Now we're seeing images of a young woman whose videos went viral as she was jeered by a crowd of men wearing saffron flags. They jeered at her, they chased her, but she held her own and defiantly walked off in her burqa. She's wearing a burqa, not just a hijab. You can see that full covering, and she held her own. We spoke to her, and this is an excerpt from what she's feeling and what she's saying today. Listen.
उस टाइम आपको कैसा महसूस हो रहा था जब आप कॉलेज के बाहर गई और अचानक से आपने बहुत सारे लोगों को चिल्लाते हुए सुना? कैसा महसूस हो रहा था आपको?
मैं जब गई वो मुझे ऐसे बोले कि इधर ही बुर्का काट, मुझे बहुत गुस्सा आया था, बहुत डिसअपॉइंटेड थी मैं कि कितना मतलब ह्यूमैनिटी में एक अकेली लड़की इतनी लड़के और मुझे बोल रहे इधर ही बुर्का काट। फिर मैं अंदर गई, फिर मैं जब आ रही थी तो मैं सोची कि मैं चुपचाप चले जाऊंगी, कुछ मतलब ऐसे नहीं क्रिएट करूंगी, चुप चले जाऊंगी। सब अनएक्सपेक्टेड था। मैं सिर्फ दूर के ऐसे चले जाने वाली थी, वो लोग मेरे सामने मुंह के सामने आए थे और बोले जय श्री राम, बुर्का काट, ऐसे शॉल वगैरह हिलाते रहे। तब मैंने आवाज डाली कि अल्लाह अकबर। मैं जब अल्लाह अकबर बोली तो कुछ कम्युनिज्म का कुछ है नहीं वहाँ। मैंने सिर्फ मेरे अल्लाह को याद किया था कि मेरे अल्लाह मुझे ताकत दे, बस इसलिए मैंने मेरे अल्लाह का नाम पुकारा। हाँ, मुझे पढ़ने नहीं दिया जरा। मेरा मंडे को एग्जाम है, पोस्टपोन हो गया है। सिर्फ मेरी वजह से मेरे कॉलेज में एग्जाम था, पोस्टपोन हो गया है। मैं पढ़ाई भी नहीं, पढ़ाई पे भी ज़्यादा कॉन्सेंट्रेट नहीं कर रहा हूँ। और जल्द से जल्द ये मतलब खत्म हो जाए तो अच्छा है।
तो अभी आपके जो प्रोफेसर्स हैं या क्लासमेट्स हैं उनकी तरफ से कैसा रिस्पॉन्स आ रहा है?
तो उनकी तरफ से बहुत अच्छा रिस्पॉन्स आ रहा है। मेरे नॉट ओनली मुस्लिम फ्रेंड्स, इवन नॉन मुस्लिम फ्रेंड्स मुझे शाबाशी दे रहे, फ्रेंड मतलब सपोर्ट कर रहे हैं। सब बोले हम तेरे साथ हैं। मुझे ज्यादा खुशी इसी हो रही है कि सारा हिंदुस्तान मेरे साथ है। मैं बहुत खुश नसीब हूँ।
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल। और मुस्कान, आप आखिर में कुछ कहना चाहेंगी कि कोर्ट से आपकी क्या उम्मीद है इस पूरे ऑर्डर को लेकर?
हाँ, कोर्ट से उम्मीद है कि हमें, मुझे बहुत मतलब उम्मीद है, ट्रस्ट है कि हमारा इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन किसी रिलीजन के अगेंस्ट नहीं जाएगा। तो भरोसा है, हम भी दुआ कर रहे हैं, इंशाल्लाह फैसला हक में होगा।
Now, irrespective of what you think of her burqa, she came on her scooter, she drove there herself, she held her own in that mob of men jeering at her, and when they asked her, Aap Jai Shri Ram boliye, she held on to her religious saying, which is Allahu Akbar. That girl is the paradox that so many women in India are, like Major Firasat. ये एक neat little boxes नहीं फिट होती, हमारी औरतें नहीं फिट होती ये नीट लिटिल बॉक्सेस में. दैट इज द पॉइंट. नाउ डू वी वांट मुस्कान टू टेक हर एग्जाम, or do we want her outside of the classroom because she's wearing a burqa which we don't agree with? What should be our priority, Ranjana Kumari?
She has to get into the classroom. She has to study. She has a right to study, and she must be allowed to study, and these goons must be arrested. That's why where this local administration has failed. They're all observers there. Why are they observers? If somebody is being is caught in criminal act by really trying to kind of mob her and say all kinds of things, but at the same time, Barkha, I mean, look, the reaction is also equally responsible. Because they are, all this there is no, if Jai Shri Ram is as stupid as responding to it the way she responded at that point of, I can understand her anger, I can understand her anxiety, but then
she probably she asserted identity against
exactly
so why is it stupid? Why is it stupid?
No, because
conversely, if this were a group of men surrounding a Hindu woman and saying Allahu Akbar, and the woman said Jai Shri Ram, I would have felt exactly the same. It is an assertion of identity against a mob.
Look, Barkha. First of all, Jai Shri Ram is not really the slogan of Hinduism. Please, let's not mix all that. So I'm just
giving an example.
But why? Because because she is also being indoctrinated, or you can say, trying to get into the same mindset of these boys. Now, if we are doing this and building two kind of warring groups of people in this country, then certainly it is going to be totally wrong. There is no rationality in this whole act. Of the boys are behaving in the most criminal manner, I would say, so they must be arrested. And also from the girls' side, the kind of their priority should be education. I totally agree. Go into your class, go and study. Demand your. I love their demand for getting into their class. But what is this fighting between each other? I mean, this is something which somebody is promoting. Somebody is trying to incite this violence, and you are getting caught into that. You are really getting part of, or cog in becoming something ban rahe hain.
You're saying the girls are becoming pawns in a larger competitive communalism.
Absolutely.
That's what you believe. Anubha, we have to start taking last comments. Anubha, sorry, you haven't had the most stable line, but go ahead, Anubha, with your view. Anubha.
See, I appeal to everyone and all the students and parents also that right now students, these college going students, they're innocent. They don't know anything about the religion. Many students, they don't know about religion. Even my children, they are not aware about our religion properly. What are the, even I know some of the customs and rituals in my religion, but students, they are not aware. So it's better not to divide this country in the name of religion, and let the children go to school. And if there is any dress code, if there is dress code in the college, the parents should also follow, teach their child that yes, you should follow the dress code, be it in your school or wherever. Otherwise, these children and students
let me get Anas.
Even further in their career.
Okay, Anas.
First of all, don't say that these kids don't know anything about the religion. Your children may not know about religion. These kids do. I come from a family educated, everything. I studied in the best of the schools, yet I knew about my religion and I have studied it deeply. I will just end. The last thing that I want to say is I just want to quote Mr. Sanjay Hegde, who said this in the court the other day in this matter. The Constitution gives us the freedom of conscience. Do not ask these girls to give up their faith for education, to give up their conscience for education. It is not good for the nation. It is not good for the society. It is not good for these girls.
Okay, and I think that to place these girls in a position where they have to choose between their faith and their education, as they understand it, is to actually double the pressure on a woman from the minority community and on young people. Please don't forget how young these people are. Ranjana, last thoughts, then Major Firasat and Zakia.
Well, I think Barkha, I totally agree with you. There is absolutely, no need for these girls to confront the way they are confronting, and the boys must be arrested. At least the leadership of these boys must be arrested immediately to calm down the situation. Let's not, every time, let's not make women to fight in the forefront. Let's not do that. We condemn Islamophobia, we condemn hate politics, we condemn all that is happening at the moment to divide the society. But at the same time, please don't make very young girls lose their opportunity to go for education because you are trying to settle some scores. Some people are trying to settle some scores against them. And also don't forget, it is a political environment, very charged political environment. 5 states have gone for election. UP election will make it or break it. Future of
I keep saying that the elections and the timing is no coincidence. We can't prove it, but how is it that every election season we have some sort of polarizing issue that pits one community against the other? Let me get Major Firasat. Major Firasat, your last thoughts, ma'am.
Ma'am, the thing is that the southern part of India is much more diverse. They're much more tolerant and they're much more performing. If we want to paint the southern part of India, I don't think so this is going to work.
What would you have said to this
I think the temple of education should be vetted as temple of education, not for anything else.
Okay. Zakia, last word to you.
I think it is imperative that we shun religion in public life. It applies to Hindus first and foremost. It applies to Muslims, Christians, all minorities also. And this responsibility should begin at the top. We cannot have, government functionaries in Bhagwa, which has become a very common image today. We have a chief minister, occupying the chief minister office and is always saffron clad. We cannot have that. And stop singling out the girls in hijab. Instead, we must support them, we must enable them so that they stand up on their own feet and they sort of become symbol of progress and development, not just for themselves and their community, but for the whole nation. So I think when our politics is failing us, the politics is becoming so divisive and so sort of based on, polarizing communities based on religion. I think we, the citizens, should take the initiative. And we should have more, go back to our tradition of dialoguing and of understanding, mutually respecting each other. I think that's the only way. We need more empathy. We need less vitriol in our public discourse, on any matters, Hindu and Muslim. And we need, all of us who love our country, all of us need to join hands to do this, because the politicians will fail only when we join the hands, that the politicians will be forced to follow us.
I just want to ask Major Firasat, if you were talking to Muskan, that young girl who withstood a mob, but she was in a burqa. So, a lot of contradictions there, just like there might be with you, where people look at the soldier and now you're wearing a hijab. What would you say to Muskan?
If I was there in the position of Muskan, I would have told her there was no point in taking name of the religion or other thing, because I myself had faced in my college life. I had come out of riots, not just myself. I had taken 4 girls, dropped them at their house, and I had come back to my house and offered tea to the person who was accompanying us in the vehicle. When the rioters had entered my class, I had done that. And I think that was one of the interview questions also when I went to army.
Well, okay, I think you have a lot of generosity of spirit, but I can also feel for what Muskan went through. It must have been a traumatic moment. Are you trying to say something, Firasat?
To say, understand, it's not just Muskan, it is the boys as well. They are very young, they are in their pliant age. They themselves will repent after 1 or 2 years. They are in their age where they are going to make best friends for life.
Well, we hope they
College friends
repent.
are the best friends for life.
You are
It
still
is just
full
the
of a lot of hope.
orchestration.
Yes, you are full of
And
a
it
lot
is
of
just
hope.
the orchestration and people who feed into their minds.
Okay, we'll have to leave it there. The matter is now before the court. I have a feeling this is a matter that is going to go all the way up to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court so far has declined to hear it, saying let the High Court decide first. But I think if we have to decide now whether the hijab is an essential practice of religion and that fundamental right has been violated, this is going to go to probably a constitutional bench in the end. But we leave it there to Anas, Anubha, Zakia, Ranjana, and Major Firasat. Thank you, and to our audience. See you tomorrow. Thank you for watching.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.